there. This coffee mug has a rooster on it. It was a gift to me from one of my relatives for Christmas one year. There's two of these and a little teapot that goes with them. Alrighty, on today's version of This Day in History for September 25th, we're going to start in 1694 with the birthday of Henry Pelham. He was a British Prime Minister from 1743 to 1754, and he introduced the Gin Acts. He was born on this day in Lawton, England. Now, I was curious, what are the Gin Acts? So I looked it up. It's the commonly known name of the Sale of Spirits Act of 1750. It was an act of the Parliament of Great Britain, which was enacted in order to reduce the consumption of spirits, a popular pastime that was regarded as one of the primary causes of crime in London. By prohibiting gin distillers from selling to unlicensed merchants and increasing fees charged to merchants, it eliminated small gin shops, thereby restricting the distribution of gin to larger distillers and retailers. In 1775, Continental Army Colonel Ethan Allen was captured by the British. After being identified as an officer of the Continental Army, Allen was taken prisoner and sent to England to be executed. Well, at least they took him to Britain to be executed instead of executing him the very next day. Allen ultimately escaped execution because the British government feared reprisals from the American colonies. But he was imprisoned in England for more than 2 years until being returned to the United States on May 6, 1778 as part of a prisoner exchange. In 1789, the Bill of Rights passes Congress. The first Congress of the United States approved 12 amendments to the U.S. Constitution and sent them to the states for ratification. The amendments, known as the Bill of Rights, were designed to protect the basic rights of U.S. citizens, guaranteeing the freedom of speech, press, assembly, and exercise of religion, the right to fair legal procedure, and to bear arms, and that powers not delegated to the federal government were reserved for the states and the people. In 1890, the Sequoia National Park was established by the United States Congress. The park, situated in the state of California, is famous for its giant sequoia trees. I've been out there, and they are truly amazing, these beautiful ancient trees. If you have a chance, go take a look at them while they're still there. On this date in 1894, President Grover Cleveland pardoned bigamists, adulterers, polygamists, and unlawful cohabitants. On this day in 1894, President Grover Cleveland issued a presidential proclamation pardoning Mormons who had previously engaged in polygamous marriages or habitation arrangements considered unlawful by the U.S. government. At the time, and to this day, plural marriages between one man and multiple women, one woman and multiple men, or multiple men and women are illegal in the United States. In 1897, American author and Nobel Prize laureate William Faulkner was born in New Albany, Mississippi. In 1903, Latvian-American painter Marcus Rothkowicz, whom we know as Mark Rothko, was born in New York City. His signature style, the Mark Rothko paintings, are what you could call color field painting. Big blocks of color given featured edges and together made these large abstract compositions that remain fairly famous even today. He passed away in 1970. On this day in 1906, Russian composer Dmitri Shostakovich was born in St. Petersburg, Russia. He died in 1975. 1917. Phil Rizzuto, born Philip Francis Rizzuto and nicknamed the Scooter, was an American Major League Baseball shortstop. He spent his entire 13-year baseball career with the New York Yankees from 1941 to 1956 and was elected to the National Baseball Hall of Fame in 1994. He was born on this date in Brooklyn, New York in 1917. He passed away in 2007. And there's another baseball great that I actually got to meet when I lived in Cooperstown. Barbara Walters was born on this date in 1929. She was the first female nightly network news anchor and was on the Today Show and 2020. 90 years young today. Happy birthday, Barbara Walters. American writer Shel Silverstein was born on this day in Chicago, Illinois. He's known for his fairly lengthy list of illustrated books such as The Giving Tree, A Light in the Attic, Where the Sidewalk Ends, and more. Shel Silverstein. The dancer Juliet Prowse was born on this day in 1936. American actor Michael Douglas was born on this day in New Brunswick, New Jersey. Here's an interesting bit of trivia about Michael Douglas. In 1975, Douglas received from his father, Kirk Douglas, the right to the novel One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. Michael went on to produce the film of the same name with Saul Zaentz. Kirk Douglas had hoped to portray the part of McMurphy himself, having starred in an earlier stage version, but was deemed too old for the part by his son Michael. Kirk relented, and the lead role went instead to Jack Nicholson, who won an Academy Award for Best Actor. Douglas won the award for Best Picture for producing the film. In 1951, American actor Mark Hamill was born in Oakland, California. I'm sure I don't have to tell you this, but he's most known for his part as Luke Skywalker in the Star Wars movies. Happy birthday, Mark Hamill. In 1952, American actor Christopher Reeve was born in New York City. He passed away in 2004. In 1957, Central High School was integrated. On May 17, 1954, the U.S. Supreme Court had ruled unanimously in Brown v. Board of Education of Topeka that racial segregation in educational facilities was unconstitutional. Under escort from the U.S. Army's 101st Airborne Division, 9 black students entered the all-white Central High School in Little Rock, Arkansas on this day in 1957. 3 weeks earlier, Arkansas Governor Orville Faubus had surrounded the school with National Guard troops to prevent the federal court-ordered racial integration. After a tense standoff, President Dwight D. Eisenhower federalized the Arkansas National Guard and sent 1,000 Army paratroopers to Little Rock to enforce the court order. In 1959, Eisenhower and Khrushchev meet for talks. Soviet leader Nikita Khrushchev capped his trip to the United States with 2 days of meetings with President Dwight D. Eisenhower. The two men came to general agreement on a number of issues, but a U-2 spy plane incident in May of 1960 crushed any hopes for further improvement of U.S.-Soviet relations during the Eisenhower years. In 1961, American actress Heather Locklear was born in Los Angeles, California. On this day in 1965, 59-year-old Satchel Paige pitched 3 innings. On September 25, 1965, the Kansas City Athletics start ageless wonder Satchel Paige in a game against the Boston Red Sox. The 59-year-old Paige, a Negro League legend, proved his greatness once again by giving up only 1 hit in his 3 innings of play. Leroy Page was born on July 7, 1906 in Mobile, Alabama. Page's family changed the spelling of their name from P-A-G-E to P-A-I-G-E to differentiate themselves from John Page, Leroy's absent and abusive father. Satchel got his name as a boy while working as a luggage carrier in the Mobile train station. When he was 12, his constant truancy, coupled with a shoplifting incident, landed him in the Industrial School for Negro Children in Mount Meigs, Alabama. It turned out to be a lucky break, though, because that's where he learned to pitch. After leaving school, he turned pro. From 1927 to 1948, Page served as the baseball equivalent of a hired gun. He pitched for any team in the United States or abroad that could afford him. He was the highest paid pitcher of his time, and he wowed crowds with the speed of his fastball, his trick pitches, and his considerable bravado. Just for fun, Page would sometimes call in the outfield and then strike out the side. From 1939 to 1942, the Kansas City Monarchs paid up for his services and were justly rewarded. Page led the team to 4 consecutive Negro American League pennants from 1939 to 1942. And in the 1942 Negro League World Series, Satchel won 3 games in a 4-game sweep of the Homestead Grays, led by famed slugger Josh Gibson. Page's contract was bought by Bill Veek's Cleveland Indians on July 7, 1948, his 42nd birthday. He made his major league debut 2 days later, entering in the 5th inning against the St. Louis Browns with Indians trailing 4-1. He gave up 2 singles in 2 innings, striking 1 man out and inducing 1 batter to hit into a double play. The Indians lost the game 5-3 in spite of Page's contribution. That year, Page went 6-1 in a solid 2.48 ERA for the world champion Cleveland Indians and was named to Major League Baseball's All-Star team for the American League in 1952 and 1953 when he was 46 and 47 years old, respectively. On September 25, 1965, Page's 3 innings for the Kansas City Athletics made him, at 59 years, 2 months, and 18 days, the oldest pitcher ever to play a game in the major leagues. Before the game, Page sat in the bullpen in a rocking chair while a nurse rubbed liniment on his pitching arm for the entire crowd to see. Any doubts about Page's ability were set to rest when he set down each of the Red Sox batters he faced, except for Carl Yastrzemski, who hit a double. Arguably the greatest pitcher of his era, Page was introduced into the Baseball Hall of Fame in 1971. 1968. Oh my goodness. American actor and comedian Will Smith was born in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania on this day in 1968. Happy birthday, Will Smith. In 1969, Welsh actress Catherine Zeta-Jones was born in Swansea, Wales. And isn't that interesting that Catherine Zeta-Jones and her husband Michael Douglas have the same birthday, different years, of course. On this day in 1970, The Partridge Family premiered on ABC television. In 1977, runners run the first Chicago Marathon, one of the world's 6 major marathons, which include the marathon in Berlin, Boston, London, New York, and Tokyo. The Chicago Marathon was initially called the Mayor Daley Marathon. The first race was won by Ruud Metzler. In 1992, NASA launches the Mars Observer. The robotic space probe's main goal was to study Mars. Almost a year later, all communications with it were lost. In 2005, the IRA officially disarms. The Irish Republican Army, IRA, was originally founded in 1919 to militarily oppose British rule in Ireland, and later served as the military arm of Sinn Féin, the Irish nationalist political party. The IRA was known for using terrorist tactics, and I'm old enough to remember how frightening and sad it was to hear about some of the violence that took place as they sought to free Northern Ireland from British rule. Eventually, though, all parties decided to negotiate a peace. It took them 22 months, that's almost 2 years, to come to terms, and a 67-page peace accord called the Belfast or Good Friday Agreement was finally signed in April of 1998. Part of that agreement was a pledge by paramilitary groups on both sides to decommission their weapons. 2 months after announcing its intention to disarm, the Irish Republican Army did give up its weapons in front of independent weapons inspectors. The decommissioning of the group's substantial arsenal took place in secret locations in the Republic of Ireland. 1 Protestant and 1 Catholic priest, as well as officials from Finland and the United States, observed as witnesses to the historic event. Automatic weapons, ammunition, missiles and explosives were among the arms found in the cache, which the head weapons inspector described as enormous. And that's going to wrap it up for us today for September 25th, this day in history. Thank you so much for watching. As always, links to my research material are in the description. Give it a like if you enjoyed this video. Consider subscribing if you haven't already. And feel free to share this video if you found it interesting. Thanks again, and I'll see you next time. Come on now, you can do it. You can do it. I know you can do it. Good girl, good girl. That's backwards. But what do I know? The way words go together sometimes. Okay, ratification. Go team. Does that say the same thing again? Okay. I need my little thing. Okay, we're good. I think. Another reason why I don't do live. Don't make me squeak that pig again.